researchers in Turkey now claim they found indisputable evidence that the story of Noah's Ark was not a cautionary tale about the consequences of forsaking God, but a verifiable historical event.
Scientists have uncovered something inside Noah's Ark in Turkey that has terrified the world. Advanced scans revealed perfectly shaped corridors, rooms, and layered structures hidden beneath the surface, patterns too precise to be natural. Experts are stunned, struggling to explain what they've found.
What in the world would a boat be doing way up there?
Could this be the legendary Ark, or something far stranger and more mysterious? Whatever it is, its secrets could change everything we thought we knew about history. Echoes of a global catastrophe around 12,800 to 11,600 years ago, Earth experienced one of the most violent climatic shifts in human history. Temperatures changed rapidly, ice melted at an unprecedented pace, and oceans rose far higher than ancient humans had ever seen. Scientists believe colossal floods swept across entire continents, reshaping landscapes in a matter of years. Rivers overflowed, coastlines vanished, and entire civilizations faced extinction. Humanity teetered on the brink as the planet transformed with brutal, unstoppable force. These catastrophic events were etched into human memory through stories passed down for generations. Ancient civilizations, from Mesopotamia and India to the Americas, shared tales of a world consumed by water. Across cultures, the message was strikingly similar. A sudden, devastating flood engulfed the lands, leaving few survivors who clung to whatever could float. Among these accounts, the story of Noah stands out as one of the most enduring.
With Noah's family and breeding pairs of all the world's animals on board.
Once considered purely symbolic or spiritual, modern research now raises the question: could these stories be based on real events witnessed by early humans? This question drove explorers and scientists to a remote region in eastern Turkey. About 18 miles south of Mount Ara, known in the west as Mount Ararat, lies a quiet, unassuming valley.
Mount Ararat, which is the legendary resting place of Noah's Ark, is very close by.
In 1948, heavy rains struck the area, followed by a sudden earthquake. When the soil shifted, a strange shape began to emerge from beneath the earth, unlike anything locals had ever seen. Scientists began investigating with advanced scanning technology, uncovering unusual geometric patterns, corridors, chambers, and layered structures buried deep beneath the surface. These precise formations defied natural explanations, leaving experts both amazed and baffled. The discovery has sparked worldwide fascination and fear. Could it finally be evidence of Noah's Ark, or something far stranger?
Started building a full-size version of Noah's Ark, using the instructions laid out in the Bible.
Whatever it is, the hidden structure challenges our understanding of history and the ancient world. Beneath the shape of an ordinary mountain, there were whispers of something more, something that could rewrite the story of humanity's oldest flood. The enigma of the Durupanar Formation. Near Mount Tenderek in eastern Turkey, scientists found a structure called the Durupanar Formation, a long boat-shaped outline pressed into the earth. It stretches about 164 meters, which is roughly 538 feet. The structure is made mostly of limonite, a dense, iron-rich material that forms through natural weathering. From above, it looks like the curved hull of a giant ship resting motionless at the foot of the mountains near the legendary region of Ararat. What makes the formation even more intriguing is how closely its dimensions match the biblical measurements of Noah's Ark. According to the book of Genesis, the Ark was 300 cubits long. When translated into modern units, that length aligns remarkably well with the size of the Durupanar Formation. This similarity has fueled decades of speculation. Was this simply a coincidence shaped by nature? Or had the ancient writers recorded measurements of something that once truly existed? The mystery deepened in the mid-20th century. Although the formation had been exposed by earlier natural events, its modern story truly began in the 1950s when a Turkish pilot flying overhead noticed the unmistakable outline of a giant vessel embedded in the land. His photograph soon circulated, and curiosity grew. Researchers, adventurers, and believers traveled to eastern Turkey to see the strange shape for themselves. Among the most dedicated was Ron Wyatt, who visited the site many times and argued passionately that it held the remains of Noah's Ark. His claims sparked global attention and heated debate, but not everyone agreed. Geologists such as Andrew Snelling and Lawrence Collins studied the same formation and reached very different conclusions. They argued that the Durupanar site was a geological syncline created by the folding of rock layers over time. According to them, the boat-like shape was the result of mud flows, erosion, and natural processes that mimicked the outline of a ship. They also pointed out that limonite-rich formations can easily weather into smooth, rounded forms that resemble man-made structures. This clash of interpretations turned the formation into one of the most controversial archaeological puzzles of the modern era.
There is an extraordinary archaeological site in the Anatolian Plateau in Turkey called Naksuan.
On one side are those who believe the structure may be a physical remnant of an ancient catastrophe remembered in sacred texts. On the other are scientists who insist the mountain holds only natural geology shaped by pressure and time. Both perspectives have evidence. Both inspire strong convictions. And yet what looked like a simple mountain ridge began to reveal lines and angles that no natural rock should have drawn on its own. Drilling into the unknown. The search for answers at the Durupanar formation entered a new chapter when a dedicated group of scientists joined forces to investigate the mysterious site. This group became known as the Noah's Ark Scans Team. It included specialists from Istanbul Technical University, Ara Ibrahim Chechen University, and Andrews University. They brought together geologists, engineers, archaeologists, and soil scientists who all shared one goal. They wanted to understand what truly lay beneath the strange boat-shaped outline resting in the shadow of Mount Tenderek. Their approach was careful and scientific. Rather than rushing to dig, they focused first on gathering information without disturbing the ground. The team relied on non-destructive methods. One of their primary tools was ground-penetrating radar, often called GPR. This technology sends signals deep into the earth and records what lies below the surface. It allows researchers to map the inside of a formation without digging so much as a single trench. Alongside the radar work, the group also performed detailed soil sampling. They collected earth from different layers, both inside the formation and outside it, to compare the results. They also went back to older data gathered in past decades and reanalyzed everything using modern software and updated scientific techniques. This careful approach allowed them to build a clearer picture of the hidden structure than any team before them. The soil results were among the most striking discoveries. Samples taken from within the formation had noticeably higher amounts of organic matter. According to soil scientists, its characteristics strongly point toward the presence of decayed wood rather than normal mudflow soil. Wood that has broken down over thousands of years releases potassium and leaves behind acidic traces. Reports from World Israel News, Fox News, and the Noah's Ark Scans project all highlighted how unusual these chemical signatures were. This was not the profile of ordinary mountain soil. It hinted that something once organic might have been buried here long ago. In total, the researchers collected 22 samples from inside and around the formation. Each sample told part of the same story. Something inside the structure had left behind a chemical fingerprint very different from the surrounding earth. The more the team studied the data, the more they felt they were approaching something important. Yet, they remained cautious. They knew that jumping straight into a full excavation could risk damaging the site before its true nature was understood. Their next planned step was careful and minimal core drilling. This method would let them remove narrow columns of earth to study deeper layers while preserving the structure itself as much as possible. Just as the core team prepared to probe deeper, their instruments began picking up signs that whatever lay below was more structured than anyone dared hope. Technology peels back the mountain. The deeper the team looked, the stranger the GPR images became. One of the most striking discoveries was a long central corridor stretching about 234 feet. This corridor ran through the heart of the formation and appeared to be flanked by shapes that looked like side rooms. The angles were sharp rather than rounded, which is unusual in naturally formed mudflow terrain. The software also detected layered zones beneath the surface extending down nearly 6 meters, or around 20 feet. These layers were stacked in a way that suggested intentional arrangement rather than chaotic geological movement. To the researchers, the map looked less like a mountain interior and more like the blueprint of a complex structure. The geometric patterns were impossible to ignore. Natural formations tend to be irregular with jagged lines and unpredictable curves. Yet the radar showed parallel lines stretching in long straight runs and intersections that formed near perfect right angles. These were not shapes that mudslides usually create. They hinted at organization and planning. Some researchers noted that the internal shapes mirrored the descriptions of 3 decks mentioned in the biblical account of Noah's Ark. Daily Sabah had reported that the site's measurements already matched those found in ancient texts. Now, the subsurface layout seemed to echo that same design. Despite the excitement, the team remained careful. GPR is a powerful tool, but it cannot identify materials with certainty. It can show shapes and voids, but not tell whether a structure is made of wood, clay, or stone. The scientists made it clear that much more testing was needed before anyone could claim a discovery of historic proportions. Their goal was to gather enough non-destructive evidence before taking the next steps. But as the radar carved through rock and earth, a new pattern emerged, one that echoed the layout of a vessel built for survival. Chemical imprints of a forgotten structure. When scientists analyzed the soil from inside the boat-shaped formation, they discovered that its potassium levels were about 40% higher than the soil taken from outside the structure. Potassium does not appear in such concentrations without a reason. It is one of the key elements released when wood breaks down slowly over very long periods of time. Soil scientist William Crabtree studied these results closely. According to the Noah's Ark Scans project, he explained that the potassium spike was exactly what one would expect if a massive wooden object had once been buried and left to decay for millennia. As wood decomposes, it releases potassium, carbon, and other organic compounds into the surrounding soil. Over thousands of years, these elements bind with the earth and create a distinctive chemical signature. The soil inside the formation seemed to hold that exact signature. The carbon data strengthened this finding even further. According to Fox News, carbon measurements inside the formation were recorded at nearly 2.72 times higher than the carbon levels outside. This was another sign that large amounts of organic matter had once been present inside the structure. High carbon levels, combined with elevated potassium, create a strong argument for long-term decay of something that was once made of wood. It suggested that the formation was not just sitting on top of organic, rich soil. Instead, the soil itself appeared to have absorbed the remains of something that had decomposed from within. There was still more. When scientists compared the pH levels of the samples, they found that the soil inside the formation was noticeably more acidic. Reports from World Israel News highlighted this acidity as another hallmark of decomposing organic material. Wood that rots over centuries releases acidic compounds. These compounds lower the pH of surrounding soil. The difference in pH between the inside and outside samples showed that some kind of long-term biological breakdown had taken place within the boundaries of the structure. Even the vegetation above the formation was different. As noted by researchers, the grass growing directly over the formation appeared in a different color than the grass surrounding it. This suggested that the soil chemistry beneath the surface was influencing plant growth. Changes in potassium, carbon, and acidity can alter the nutrients plants absorb, which then affects their appearance. Nature itself seemed to be responding to whatever was buried below. All of these clues created a compelling pattern. The chemical and biological signals did not align with a simple natural rock formation. Instead, they supported the idea that something organic and possibly constructed once occupied this space. Something large, something ancient, and buried in that chemical fingerprint, there lay not just signs of decay, but evidence that something once lived, breathed, and aged under these very stones. Hidden chambers and impossible symmetry. The deeper the team studied the subsurface, the more defined the structure became. A critical academic review by A.J. Kohler.
Some American researchers claim they have found what they believe is evidence of the Ark buried in a remote part of Turkey.
Examined earlier and recent data and identified shapes that looked like hull ribs curving along the sides of the formation. The review also described what resembled deck support beams and a large central cavity that could have served as a main passageway. These impressions were not random. They followed a pattern, a rhythm of construction that hinted at deliberate design. Kohler's work suggested the possibility that the formation may not only look like a ship on the outside, but may contain ship-like architecture within its core. Older investigations added more layers to the mystery. In the 1980s and 1990s, researchers conducted spectral analyses on dark tar-like materials taken from the site. According to Kohler's review, these substances displayed signatures similar to bitumen or asphalt, like compounds. Such materials were commonly used in ancient shipbuilding for waterproofing the hulls of large vessels. The idea that anything resembling waterproofing residue could be found at the site pushed the conversation into even more astonishing territory. If the formation had once held wooden structures, these residues might be the last chemical traces of attempts to seal and preserve them. Modern technology provided even clearer results. The GPR scans, processed through advanced filtering techniques like noise reduction and amplitude tuning, revealed many of these structural hints at depths of 3 to 7 meters beneath the surface. This meant the shapes were not superficial markings created by erosion or surface changes. They lay deep inside the earth, where natural forces typically blend and distort everything they touch. Yet these shapes remained crisp, parallel, measured. Of course, the scientific debate remains intense. Critics argue that geological forces can sometimes produce surprising geometry. Mud flows can settle in layered patterns, and tectonic pressure can fold rock in ways that mimic artificial lines. However, supporters counter that the degree of symmetry and the consistent internal layout make a purely natural explanation harder to defend. They point to the structure's scale, depth, and chemical signatures as evidence that something crafted may once have stood here. Piece by piece, the hidden shapes were giving the team a clearer model of what the buried object might be. The lines were no longer random blurs. They were forming a silhouette, a blueprint of something vast, something built. Expert geologists and religious leaders' response. Many geologists are skeptical of the idea that the Durupanar formation could be Noah's Ark. They argue that the structure's boat-like shape can be explained by natural geological processes. According to several experts, including Dr. Murat Avci, the formation likely resulted from a massive earth flow. In such events, layers of rock and soil slide down a slope in a way that can accidentally create shapes resembling human-made structures. Dr. Avci and others explain that the elongated outline seen at Durupanar fits this natural pattern, especially in a region known for its volcanic activity and unstable terrain. Other geologists, such as Lawrence Collins and researchers who published studies in the 1990s, also believe the formation's composition proves it is natural. They point to limonite, magnetite, and other minerals commonly found in rock layers that have been compressed or folded over time. They emphasize that no confirmed petrified wood or metal fasteners have ever been recovered from the site, despite decades of claims. Their conclusion is that the excitement surrounding the formation does not replace the need for peer-reviewed scientific proof. However, the story does not end there. A smaller but growing group of scientists takes a more open-minded approach. The Noah's ARK scans team, which includes researchers from various universities, argues that the recent ground-penetrating radar scans challenge the idea that the formation is natural. The scans show parallel lines, right-angled shapes, and internal compartments that some say resemble the layout of a large, ancient vessel. Soil testing has also revealed high levels of potassium, organic matter, and acidic pH inside the structure, all of which could indicate decomposed wood. These scientists do not claim to have found the Ark, but they believe the data is strong enough to justify deeper investigation and cautious optimism. Religious leaders, too, have reacted strongly to the findings. Many Christian leaders see the possibility of a physical Ark as deeply meaningful. They believe such a discovery would affirm one of the most famous stories in the Bible and strengthen the historical connection between faith and the ancient world. Some pastors and religious scholars have expressed excitement about the idea that modern technology could reveal something ancient scripture described thousands of years ago. In Islamic communities, the discovery is equally important. The story of Prophet Nuh holds a central place in the Quran, and many Muslims view the Durupana formation as a potential sign connected to their religious history. The idea that the Ark may have rested in this region aligns with long-held traditions in Turkey and across the Muslim world. Still, not all religious figures rush to declare the site the Ark. Some urge patience. They remind believers that faith does not need archaeological confirmation, and that mistaken claims in the past have caused disappointment. Their message is simple: let science continue its work. Truth, whatever it may be, does not fear investigation. What do you think is really hidden inside Noah's Ark? Share your thoughts in the comments below.